Phil, last question. We're in the NBA Finals. Celtics really took control in game one. Obviously, lost the tough game. They played a pretty weak third quarter on uh, last night, but it's 1-1. I still think the Celtics got some juice. They're extremely young. There's a lot of talent there. I know you're a Philly guy, but regardless, what is your take? Are you Eastern Conference guy with the Celtics, or are you going out west with the Warriors?
So I I am a big fan of the Celtics. I love what they've done and have for a few years. My son is a monster Sixers guy, and I've been telling him for years. I'm like, the Celtics are just better than the Sixers. Like I don't have a rooting interest. I really don't.
Do you think that's because Brad Stevens got out of that coaching role and went to the GM, and he's kind of a wizard as far as the GM goes?
I just think their whole organization, it's the same in college, right? Like there's a reason that certain places win consistently. There's a reason that certain places lose consistently. And people put it on a player or a coach, right? Like you see these organizations that just keep firing coach, fire coach, fire coach, fire coach. It's not the coach. Like it's not. It's really not. It's the same when you see, programs that win so much. In college, like you see programs that win and you see coaches get bigger job. So like I used to always use Xavier as an example. Like they were the luckiest place on earth that they had Pete Gillen, Skip Prosser, Thad Matta,
Mac,
Sean Miller, Chris Mack. Like they just got that lucky that they had all these great coaches. No, like there's a great organization. No, those guys are great coaches, but there was a great setup there. It's the same in a professional organization. If ownership to that next level of management, to general manager, to coach, to players, and the Celtics have had that for a long time. Yeah. And I don't know all the names of the people, but you just know when you watch them and what they've done going back years and years and years now. You can see it, and you couple that with a little bit of luck, and a lot of hard work, and you see the fruits of that labor, and it's no secret why you see certain teams that just routinely outperform, their expectations or always at the top of the standings or deep into the finals or the playoffs. With that said, though, and like I said, I'm big with the Celtics. I want the Celtics to win. I'd love to see the Celtics win. I do think the Warriors there's just something about them. And I will say this too and couple it back to our experience here. Mm-hmm. I've always been a big believer in you need to get somewhere and see it before you can get to the top. And, for us last year, it was losing in the championship game. I don't know if we had lost in that championship game. We hadn't gotten to that championship game last year. I don't know if we would have been ready to win this one this year. I know that being there and seeing that and feeling that when you get into the game the next year, okay, like I see it now. I get it. The Warriors have that, right? They have that. There's no disputing that they have all the experience in this series. So I've got to roll with that. But I will say this, as long as this core can stay together and they can figure whatever the salary numbers, I don't know all that stuff, but if they can keep all that stuff together, I think there's going to be a run in Boston of, it might not be a championship every year, but they're going to be flirting with that championship for a lot of years. Because that group, for my money right now, Tatum and Brown, they are as good of a combination. And I think the role guys for the Celtics, I talk to our guys in the office about this all the time. Like, you're not putting together an all-star team, right? Like, it's not about, you take this guy, you take that guy, boom, 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 and it's just all this talent and just stuff it together and makes you really good. It's pieces. Basketball is about pieces. And the pieces for the Celtics, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, obviously being the main two, it just puts that thing like it just blends it together. The same way Draymond Green does with the Warriors. Guys like that they bind that stuff together and make you such a strong unit. But yeah, this was for me going in. This was the two teams I wanted to see. And I hope it goes 7. I hope it goes to a game 7, and we all get that because we deserve that. So.
I think it will, but my thing is, and I just have one more question on the Sixers after this, but my thing is, and I know it's a totally different team, but these, the Warriors are getting older right now. I know, and I think the Celtics did this in game one. They said, we're going to let Curry score as much as he can, but let the other guys beat us. And they couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Now in game two was a totally different story. And I think the second half is what killed the Celtics. But the Warriors kind of remind me, and obviously this team that I'm going to describe to you was not really a 3-point shooting team, but as far as how old this team is that I'm going to describe to you is the old Lakers. Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton was on that team. I forget who else was. Again, that's not a 3-point shooting team like
Right.
the Warriors are, but you're getting two real good players. They're getting older. They can score. They can rebound. They're a good team. But I think they lost to, was it Detroit in the
And I
finals?
think they did. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they lost to Detroit, and that team was old. And then obviously that team got broken up. I believe that was the year Shaq went to the Heat, and then Kobe stayed, and then obviously Malone retired, and I think Peyton went to the Heat. Yeah, with the Shaq. It's tough to make comparisons with team, but are you worried about that team is getting older as far as the Warriors? Like they do have some young pieces, but the Celtics are way younger.
Yeah, and that's why I think I don't know that for this series it matters, but
Yeah.
yeah, for future, if you had if this was the stock market and you said, okay, which one are you buying right now? I'm probably buying the Celtics as a long term.
Right. Investment.
You know, Warriors would be more short term, but yeah, I think the adjustments that both coaches will continue to make in that cat and mouse game. I mean, that's what makes the 7-game series so cool. To see, okay, what adjustments are they going to make? In the first game, it seemed like the Warriors want to match to the Celtics smaller lineup, but the
Well, remember
Celtics
the Celtics had a longer road and a tougher road than the
for
Warriors.
sure,
They had to beat
absolutely.
the Heat, which is a very good defensive team. And that's a way tougher road, along with the beating
Yeah,
Giannis again. I
yeah,
mean, the Warriors had kind of, besides Dallas, I considered them a pretty good defensive team, a good team. Besides that, they had kind of a cupcake way through. Plus, the
yeah,
Celtics played, that's why I thought the Celtics were going to be extremely tired in game one, because they were going 7 almost every series.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but those guys they'll all make their adjustments. I'm sure they're spending all day, today and tomorrow
Right.
scouring through the film and saying, let's take advantage of this, take advantage of that. I mean, the Celtics were smart. They tried to take advantage, when the Warriors go small, they're like actually small. When the Celtics go small, they're not so small because, Tatum's 6'8", Brown's, long and athletic. Like they can stay pretty big and, it looked like they were trying to take advantage of that and try to post some of those guys up and, do some different stuff that way. And then, then you get the game two and the substitution patterns are a little different. Warriors kind of make their adjustment. Now the Celtics will have to go back and figure out, it's a fun game of cat and mouse. It's why those guys at that level love that. They love those 7-game series because they, now it's about, all right, here's the adjustment we're going to make, and see if it works.
Let's close with this. As a Philly guy, I know you got a lot of connections to that area growing up there, going to St. Joe's, your dad, of course. What is and being in with the Sixes too. What is going on with the Sixes? They were a team that was supposed to maybe win the East. Is Harden going to stay? What's going to happen with that? How is Doc still there? It seemed like he was on his way out to the Lakers job, and now they got a Darvin Ham there. I don't know if he's going to last. I don't think he is, but I thought Doc was there, and then all of a sudden he's staying. It seems like he doesn't really want to be there anymore. So what is going on with that team?
I don't follow it as close. You should have my son on because he'd be able to tell you, and he'd have every opinion and all that. I mean, I think Doc Rivers is an outstanding coach.
I agree. He did good with the Magic when he was there.
Things got very contentious there in the playoffs between him and media and different things. And, but if there's a guy that I would bet on to be able to figure it out and turn it around, he's one of them for sure. Yeah, they got a lot of figuring out to do. I mean, Embiid's a great player. Obviously, he's a MVP, borderline MVP guy. And the problem sometimes with guys like that is they're so unique. There's not a blueprint for, okay, how do you build and play around him? And I think that they've been trying to figure that out for a long, long, long time. And you couple that with, I hate to say personnel mistakes, but it feels like there's been a few, trades and different things like, well, why that guy, or why does that guy fit, or what, so I think they've just been constantly trying to figure that out. And again, my totally amateur view of it, trying to figure out, all right, here's this guy, that is really, 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 really good and really, really, really unique. And what do you do? It's
because he's injury prone. He's only got a couple years left.
For
probably
sure.
Good
Yeah.
health.
I mean, his window's short, you think. But yeah, it's just like, you just look at it and you say, like, what do you do? And I don't know those answers. I don't have those answers. And I think they've tried a little bit of everything, try a ton of shooting around him and, try this and try that and do this and do that. It's just, guys like Tatum, like there's a blueprint for that. You look at a Kevin Durant or you look at, whoever, and you say, all right, that's how you, it took the Milwaukee a little bit of time with Giannis to figure that out, and got over the hump obviously last year, but, trying to figure out, like, hey, here's this extremely unique player. We've never seen anything like this, and what do you do? How do you play? Because everybody's got a vision of, like, this is the way the game should be played, and it might all be a little bit different, but everybody's got a vision of the game. And then you drop in this, this magical spirit that you're like, all right, what do you do with a 7-foot guy that can shoot a little bit, that can post up, that needs the ball, but, how do you get the ball to him in the right areas and the right players around and the spacing and all that is, it's not an easy thing. People, I think, just think like you don't just get good and, like, all of a sudden, like, okay, yeah, you're good. Well, there's different levels to that. There's championship level good. There's deep playoff good. There's playoff good. There's, like, yeah, you're not quite good enough. Like, there's levels to that, and trying to figure that out. And when you watch those two teams last night, Warriors and the Celtics, you watch, the conference finals with the Mavericks, you watch the Heat, you watch, the Phoenix Sun, you watch all these teams, you're like, man, these teams are so good. And the players right now in the NBA are so talented. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's like guys, I say it all the time, like, if we sat here and I said, all right, Rob, let's each name the top 25 offensive players in the league. We're going to have 5 or 10 that are going to cross over, but you'll have 15 that I don't. I'll have 15 that you don't. And we could bring a third guy in. He's going to have another 10 that don't make our list. I mean, that's how good the league is right now. Like, you hear these debates all the time. Like, who would you rather have, Luka or this guy? You're like, Luka or Trae Young. I'm like, how could you argue? I don't even know how you argue it. Like, I love Luka. I love Trae Young. I think those guys are unbelievable. But, like, the debates you could have right now are, and no one could be wrong because there's so many good players.
I just hope that Joel Embiid's fate is not, and I know this guy's a different position than him, but it's not the Tracy McGrady fate, a guy that was injury prone, a guy that was one of the greatest players of his time period, scoring champion, MVP candidate, back injuries, just like Joel Embiid. And he just it was always the wrong place, the wrong time with them, whether it was in Houston with Yao Ming, they just couldn't win it there, whether it was in Orlando where Grant Hill, who was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan before he got hurt.
Right.
He went down. They were supposed to get Tim Duncan. There's a lot of talk about that now with Grant Hill and T-Mac. I mean, what a team that would be. You talk about a big three in the early 2000s, but I just hope he doesn't suffer the same fate as T-Mac did.
I'm with you. I hope so too.
But let's end with that. Again, Phil Martelli Jr., Bryant University, associate head coach, BryantBulldogs.com. Definitely check it out and check out the basketball camps if you're in the New England area on the website too. Phil, thanks so much for always coming on. Greatly appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rob. Anytime. It's always great spending time with you.